Welcome to the community meeting. I'm Liz Kelly from the NANOG Program Committee, and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to introduce our speakers for this hour. We'll have Edward McNair, Tina Morris, and Vince Celindro. Edward McNair is the Executive Director of NANOG. Tina Morris is the Vice Chair of the NANOG Board of Directors and also serves as the Chair of the Aaron Advisory Council. Vince Celindro is the Chair of the NANOG Program Committee and is a member of the Board of Directors of NANOG. I would like to first welcome Edward, who will be presenting 2019 highlights. Welcome, Edward.
Thank you. As she mentioned, my name is Edward McNair, and I'm the Executive Director of NANOG. I'd like to take a moment and talk to you about some of the things that took place in 2019 that, as part of our community, you should know about. But as I move into it, before I get started, I first would like to thank the Program Committee and the NANOG staff and the board and our sponsors for making this meeting a reality. What you see that happens on screen, there's a lot of people that are behind it to making everything work, who work tirelessly, long hours. Program committee, this is all new things for us. And so it meant that we all had to kind of pull together and offer something like we've never done before. And I want to congratulate everyone. I think they've done a marvelous job. And thank you all for being a part of it. So here are the things that I'd like to kind of chat with you about for a few minutes. I want to talk about and go over some of the significant things that we've accomplished over the course of 2019 and beyond. Talk about efforts in building community and promoting openness. Give some highlights of our 2019 annual report. Talk about NANOG Stories, which features innovations within our community. And then talk about NANOG TV, one of our latest releases that highlights some of the technologies and the best practices that all take place within our industry. So first, let me talk about the annual report. This is our first ever annual report. And on this, we wanted to really promote openness and transparency. We wanted our community to know what we're doing and, again, why we're doing it. We focused on our NANOG community. We focused on education, our outreach efforts, the events that we put on, sponsorship, and financials. So here's a particular slide which is going to highlight some of the key things that you should know about our industry as a whole. So we have over 13,000 industry professionals and students that make up the NANOG community. In our typical meetings, there are 200 plus first-time attendees that are part of it. There are over 1,000 attendees that are part of our conferences, and they represent people from over 20 different countries. Our NANOG community, if you kind of look at more kind of in a micro level, we have 37 community ambassadors, and these are people within the program committee and volunteers that support our organization. We have 157 sponsorship partners. We have 3,412 conferences who've attended conferences in 2019. We've had 553 people attend our outreach sessions, and we've posted 62 students in our immersion programs, and we've given out 4 scholarships over the course of 2019. So this particular slide focuses on the 10 communities that were directly impacted by the efforts of NANOG over the course of 2019. Education. The NANOG immersion program is critical to what we do. The board several years ago determined that it would be important to outreach the students to give them a chance to participate within our community. And last year, as I said before, we hosted 62 students from 4 different universities. STEM. One of the things that's been a passion for me is to get out into the community, to get more directly involved. And I had the opportunity to participate in a STEM program and also community engagement in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. It was an amazing opportunity. I met some amazing people, and I got a chance to be representative of NANOG and to share with other communities about NANOG's vision and about our community and the efforts that we do. Outreach. One of our big outreach events that we did that I participated in last year was participating and supporting ISOC in their efforts to support the indigenous communities within North America. They have a marvelous program, and I had a great opportunity to be an evangelist there to support NANOG, to talk about the programs and things that we offer, and to try to help others contribute, support their communities in getting broadband in the areas that need it the most. NANOG meetings. Our face-to-face meetings are the lifeblood of our organization. They are our heart and soul. It's where community begins within our organization. And in our annual report, you're going to find our efforts toward transparency, trying to show you what these meetings are like in terms of the statistical level and how they impact ourselves, and so that we can measure, are we doing, the things that we would like to do? Are we being part of the solutions that we need within our communities? The NANOG program. The NANOG program is a critical thing that we do. We have 25 members who are part of that program. We have 9 subcommittees. We had 2 keynote speakers in 2019. We had one woman in tech speaker that came. We actually had the opportunity of having Mitchell Baker come and join us at a meeting in 2019. We had 186 presentation submissions during the course of 2019, and we had 93 accepted talks. Marketing and social media. We're going to live in a digital connected world, and staying in tune with that is critical to what we do. And we put a lot of energy and effort in that. The staff works tirelessly to try to promote our organization so that communities outside of NANOG understand what we're doing, and then also helping to form our own existing community. So just some stats. We released our a new website in 2019, and a little statistical data there. Since its launch last year this time, we've and toward the end of calendar year in 2019, we had 35,000 visitors. We had 125,000 page views, and we averaged 7,786 visitors per month. So very fortunate in the amount of people that do kind of get a chance to see what NANOG is doing. Social media, quick example, in the course of 2019, we had 1,123 new followers in our Instagram for a total of 2,300 people who get to see NANOG's messaging. Sponsorship. If conferences are our heart and soul, sponsorship is the lifeblood that keeps us going. We wouldn't be where we are without the support of our sponsors. And I thank all of you. This report can kind of details who all's involved and what they do. And if you believe in what we're doing as a community, I would encourage you at your corporations to consider sponsoring NANOG and our efforts. Financials. We are a community-driven nonprofit. We believe in transparency and openness. There are no smoke and mirrors. During our annual report, we highlight our finances, what we've done. And here's an opportunity for you to kind of peer in and see a little closer look of NANOG in terms of what we do and our financial impact and what we're doing in that regards. So it's very important for us that we are transparent and open to our community, and our annual report is a part of that. So NANOG Stories and NANOG TV, these are part of our efforts to inform our community about what we're doing and kind of highlight certain aspects of the efforts that we put on. We share stories featuring people within our community, successes that we've done. Just recently, I actually wrote an article, this has been released today, that addresses some of the issues that are currently happening across our nation and across our world. Everything impacts us. We're all human. This is all part of our human community. And NANOG is a part of that world. And this is, articles like this are a part of showing solidarity with the world in which we live and the community that we serve. NANOG TV. One thing that NANOG has over the course of years of doing conferences is that we have an incredible library of talks. NANOG TV focuses and highlights on the talks that are given by those in our community. We have sessions which first features on top talks that we've done. We did a section this year on working from home as a response to the COVID crisis. And we also do throwbacks from our archive. So if you get a chance, please take a look and see what all that we have in NANOG TV. Feedback. Giving a voice to our community is very, very important. So now you're going to notice on our website, whenever you are there, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a feedback button. That feedback button will track any page that you're on, and you can tell you there's a problem that you see on our website or any way you want to communicate with us, just click on the feedback button. It's always there. And also, we're now using an email address called feedback@nanog.org. We'd love to hear your feedback about this conference. We'd love to hear the feedback about anything that we're doing and any suggestions that you might have and how we can better serve our community. And in speaking of feedback, there's a few poll questions that we'd like to be able to ask you. The first poll is, what are your plans for NANOG 80? And then also we'd like to know, what do you feel the value is of our virtual conferences? And then finally, in light of that, if you have a hybrid meeting, how would you feel about the value of it then? So those polls will pop up. Please answer the polls and give us some feedback. We greatly appreciate it. And with that said, I would like to say thank you to you all. I appreciate your participation. And then I'd like to turn over to Tina Morris, the Vice Chair of the NANOG Board.
Hi, everybody. I apologize. My slides were not working properly, so I'm going to do this without any. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to let you know that we're going to do a special election. You'll see an announcement for that election come out on June 15th. It'll be out on the website and the member mailing list. Essentially, it's a very small vote on a NANOG bylaw change. We're going to change the term start date for board members that are elected in a standard annual election. They will start in January rather than immediately upon election. This just allows for a little bit more of a transition period for newcomers to get ramped up before they have to make any decisions about the NANOG organization. It will just be a couple of minor changes, and we will convey those on the website as well as email on June 15th. On June 20th through June 22nd, voting will be open, and on July 20th through 22nd, voting will be open. So you'll have a full month to review the changes and ask questions prior to voting. And then on July 23rd, the results will be announced. Once again, they're very straightforward changes. There's only, I believe, 4 of them throughout the entire bylaws, and we'll highlight them specifically for you in detail. That's all I have. I'll hand it to Vincent.
So we had 20 talks over the past 3 days. 2 fantastic and interesting keynotes from Tom Daly and Scott Radner. Thanks, Tom and Scott. We had 2 panels. On Monday, we had the network's response to COVID-19, and this morning, RPKI. They were both well received. 16 general session talks and the return of Birds of a Feather at NANOG 79. The last time we had BOFs was over a decade ago. Since NANOG 68, back in February of this year, the program committee was hard at work. We were planning for Boston, all before the world's current events that has changed our normal. The BCC had to pivot and adjust, plan, coordinate for a remote-only conference. And as a reminder, we're volunteers. We all had to deal with our day jobs and everything that the pandemic brought along to our daily lives. We still, though, collectively reviewed and voted on 53 talks. Even with 53 submissions, we couldn't accept every talk. We needed to give some considerations given the change in format, compounded by certain constraints from our speakers due to the pandemic. As a result, though, don't fret, we may see some of these talks at NANOG 80. So what are some of these considerations? Being a remote-only meeting, we decided on a bridged program. Working from home, there's a lot more distractions, as everyone has seen. More than likely, you've already been staring at a computer screen for 8 or so hours a day. And we were trying to be very mindful of that, keeping sessions to 60 minutes at max this time around. So one of the questions that we do have is, would you like to see tutorials that may be 90 to 120 minutes in this format? Along with dealing with the time zone differences, not only in North America, but also from our global participants was another factor. Personally, in my newcomers lunch, I had participants that were in the UK, China, and Germany. We appreciate all of our attendees, especially those that were international, and dealt with the time differences. So going forward, we will always have an option to remotely participate in NANOG. Just like I mentioned about the newcomers launch, having the ability to participate remotely opens the doors to a wider audience and more speakers, as well as more content. Actually, we had 3 speakers that were international at NANOG 79. This was our inaugural full remote participation meeting, and hopefully everyone enjoyed it so far. It's going to be an evolving format, possibly multiple tracks, and more ways to collaborate. We also need to consider, when we're able to have an in-person conference again, how to create a hybrid and blend the remote aspects and the in-person attendees so that we can have a rich and full experience. I've gone through some of the feedback that we have had over day 1 and day 2. Generally, it's been very positive about the platform that we've been using. We are obviously looking at ways to improve. We've heard you guys, session transitions, preserving chats, hallway chats, the ability to do direct messages and side chats. So we hear you. We're looking at how to be able to enhance and improve that for NANOG 80. Revisiting prior conference talks. That was a resounding yes. Possibly incorporating updates, reboots of certain talks. So I'm going to look to everyone here in the community to provide feedback on which talks they may want to see reboots of. Schedule changes. Just like in person, things change at last minute. Usually these are last minute constraints. Sometimes these are due to technical issues or constraints from speakers. As much as we try and avoid changes and work with all parties involved, things happen, and we thank you guys for being patient with us. All we're looking to do is provide the best that we can do for the community. More social events as well is something that we've heard, right? And obviously this is very difficult given trying to do this in a remote-only format, but we've had very good success with newcomers, the women in tech, things like the virtual happy hours that we've seen pop up. You know, we're looking at how to be able to formalize that and give you guys a very rich experience. Your feedback is very important, not only to help shape what NANOG conference will look like, but to ensure that we seek out content that is relevant and important to our community. So please fill out those surveys. It is very important. And it's never too late to submit a talk for a future NANOG. Lastly, if you are currently not a NANOG member, but like what you've seen over the past 3 days, please consider joining the NANOG community as one. And with that, Liz, I think, do we have time for questions and answers?
Very much for those talks. I really appreciate that. We do have a couple of questions that came in. The first question is basically the NANOG show that we saw was great. It's going to be great also to be able to see these on YouTube. Do we know when they're going to be upgraded or updated into YouTube? Ed, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. Sorry about that. The plan is that they'll be released 2 weeks after the close of this event.
Great. So a lot of people are asking about having an officially sanctioned chat session, and I think this all fits into the idea of having more social time. Is that something that the board of directors of the program committee is going to be looking into and kind of committed to figuring out how to improve our platform in that way?
I'll try to attempt to answer that. Yes, we are looking at that. The board met at the close of last year, and one of the things that are part of our strategic guidance was to explore improvements to some of the creating forums and other outlets for the community to be able to connect. So we are exploring those issues and be hoping to be announced some things, if not at our fall meeting in the first of next year.
Great, thank you. I think a question that's coming up for a lot of the members is about NANOG's position right now with COVID. What does the fact of not having physical meetings do to NANOG from a financial perspective? Does that put the group into any kind of trouble, or does the fact that, or does it actually help because those are expensive meetings?
Tina, do you want to tackle that one, or do you want me to?
I think I'll do part of it. There is a cost to the virtual meeting. It is not free at all. But obviously it's less than an in-person, but there's also not the revenue. So it's a balance. We have a fund for a reason. We've been lucky enough to keep sponsors and get sponsors for this meeting. But yes, we're definitely evaluating and looking at case by case of all of our scenarios that we tried to field in coming up with the right amount to have in our accounts. Canceling meetings for a full year was just, we accounted for dwindling numbers, a recession, all sorts of things, but this just wasn't on our radar. And there are cancellation fees associated with venues and contractors as well. So it's still a work in progress, I think. Do you want to add to that, Ed?
And I think you're right on all those accounts. We weigh a lot. Over the past 2 months, the board has been meeting every week, assessing the situation, trying to stay current, trying to evaluate best ways that we can serve our community and protect our community. So there's a lot that goes into it. The PC has been putting a lot of effort and work into the whole conference, the online conference that you've seen. We take the needs of our community very, very seriously. And we are doing everything we can to assure that we continue to serve you as best we can.
Agreed. Thank you. I think a couple of people have brought up over the course of the couple of days, when can we get back to Boston? I think it was maybe 20 years since NANOG, and it was a very anticipated event to have it in Boston. I know that we have our schedule out for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So everybody's looking forward to getting that back on the program.
We're planning on putting Boston in the top of our queue for future meetings. We really wanted to have this meeting. We were very sad that we couldn't have the meeting, and we're going to try to get into Boston as soon as we can.
So, Edward and Vince, what was the biggest hurdle for getting NANOG online this time around in such a quick way?
Well, one thing that we were fortunate in that kind of made things a little easier, Digital as a partner, we had contracted with them to provide services for our webcast. And so in NANOG 78 was the first time that we used their services. We knew that they offered these features, but we hadn't taken advantage of it. So it was pretty easy. They understood who we were. They understood a little bit about our needs. And it was just a matter of kind of driving that. So from a technical standpoint, that worked. But then the logistics were the part that came in and made things really complex. So there was a huge effort between things that were going on in the background with staff and also things that were happening with the program committee. I'll talk a bit about the staff efforts, and then I'll let Vincent talk about the program efforts. So from a staff standpoint, we had to make sure that messaging was on point. We had to make sure that we were providing the proper back-end support in terms of graphics, design. We were, Valerie is struggling and running to make sure that she can provide and switch gears for making things work from virtually as opposed to a face-to-face meeting. Our developers were working to add additional features so that we could support this. So there were a lot of things going on to make this happen. And in my personal opinion, I think with the compressed time frame that we had, I think everyone did an amazing job considering the circumstances. Vincent?
Yeah, I would totally agree with you, Edward. I mean, part of it was we were all wrapped up trying to get everything ready for Boston, and everything hit. So it was kind of a lull at that point, not only for what are we going to do, but it was more of, are we getting the amount of submissions that we normally get for this? Because I think everyone from the community was also trying to figure out, well, are things going to happen? But fortunately enough, after we've decided on doing a remote only, then we had to transition gears in, well, how are we actually going to be able to get some of this content? And obviously, we're all in this business, trying to figure out how do we get the best performance or the best experience. And that's why we decided to possibly pre-record some talks and then have some as live. And as I mentioned before, the program committee, we're all volunteers, right? So our day jobs, most of us being network engineers, we had to deal with the internal issues of how do we scale up these networks. I mean, a lot of people that were on the program committee were scaling up VPN resources for all the work from home. So all that compounded, I mean, I totally agree with you, Edward, there, that I think a lot of the changes was just, this is new to us. And it was such a compressed time frame. But again, we're all professionals. We've done this. So it's just a matter of being able to pivot and shift, as well as thank you to the community for your submissions as well.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that as well. There is the factor involved. We were always planning and kind of visiting doing this. Suddenly the situation happened that forced it front and center. But now we're going to continue to offer a virtual component in future meetings. And as we move into a hybrid, we're exploring what exactly that will look like. But we believe that we can serve our community in a broader fashion by being able to have them engage them online. So I think it's a wonderful situation, and I'm excited to see where we take it next.
Guys, for those answers. I think one of the things that has been really interesting about this NANOG is the fact that we had over 2,000 people signed up the last I knew. I know that for the last several NANOGs, we've had between 900 and maybe 1,300. So almost double the amount of people that we've had here. And I'm not sure how big a proportion of those are newer members, but I've definitely during the newcomers lunch talked to a lot of people here who are here for the first time. Can we get some comments from you guys on people who are here for the first time about how they could go about submitting talks and tutorial proposals and things like that, who are kind of newer to our community? And let's talk about the way NANOG runs.
I'll let you start out, Vincent, then I'll come behind you.
Well, I was going to say the easiest way is to go to the website, and essentially there'll be an option there for submitting a talk. If I had it available, I'd post the URL, but that's going to be the easiest way. Outside of that, I put the names of the 25 program committee members. Feel free to reach out to any of them, reach out to myself. If there's a topic that you're looking to put out and you just want to kick the tires of, hey, I'm thinking about this, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation, as well as how can I contribute? How can I volunteer for NANOG? Feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other program committee members, any of the board members. We'd be more than happy to assist you or point you in that right direction.
Yeah. And I would also like to add to that one of the things that I have been offering the PC is that, we do have folks on staff who can support and help these efforts. Both Lee and I have a design background, and if there's anything the community needs in terms of creating a graphic that can help better express certain things. We have Brandy, who is a writer, and not that we can create the presentations for you, but we can offer additional support. So, and I think also there's an opportunity to, and again, I would roll this back to Vincent and the program committee, is to kind of get a broader idea of kind of the talks that we would like to see or things that we're open to for submission. So if Vincent, you could address kind of in a broader sense, what are some of the talks and some of the things that they can do or submit? Sure.
Obviously, it's always, being technology focused, it's always about new and upcoming technologies. We've seen things about 5G, right? We saw the LFA talk. I believe it was 2 nanogs ago, we were already talking about 400 gig and when that would come around and what that actually looked like. Maybe things like 800 gig. So anything that's new and interesting technology is always on the table. Other things that may not be top of mind, we're always looking to have talks or interact with the other organizations like IETF, standards organizations, right? We had some talk about the multicast this past week. So those are all obviously interesting talks. We're always also looking for talks from academia students, because always looking at from that perspective as we talk about diversity, not only from a personal perspective, but from a diversity, from a thought perspective. That helps us grow. Lastly, I will say I'm also personally interested in a lot of the career development type talks. We had the Whiteboarding 101 or How to Whiteboard talk. These are kind of the skills that I think as we grow through our careers are really useful, not only for the people that are seasoned, but also for the newcomers or the people that are just getting out of college, the new college grads. These are skills that I think that we've just taken for granted, but it's very good for them to witness firsthand and help with their careers. So those are the kind of the general talks that I would say that we're looking for.
Edward. So the question kind of comes up of, if we are going to be this way for a little while, maybe not in a city and in a specific location, does that broaden our horizons for who we can have in terms of keynote speakers and people who are willing to travel? Has that been thought about, and have we kind of done, thought through those issues of how can we take advantage of this situation, not just be thrown into it?
One thing that I would say is part of our commitment to a virtual platform, it also allows us to, I think, expand the amount of speakers that we can have. I mean, we're now able to have people who can present from around the world. They're no longer restricted by the location of where they are. So I think that it will greatly expand our reach, greatly expand the kind of talks that we can offer. And I'm personally very, very excited about this. I just think this is going to benefit our community in a myriad of ways.
And I'll add to that. Usually we were trying to pick a keynote speaker local to the host city just to have that local flair. But now having this expanded option, I think, as you mentioned, Edward, that's really going to help expand who we can get as far as a keynote speaker, because they may not have to travel now. And a lot of the constraints is because they need to be somewhere is what was limiting us in the past.
These are really good points.
Exciting times.
I agree. The last and final question that we have for you guys, and while we're answering this, if there's anyone who has any further questions for our panel, please submit them, or we're going to go into the closing. So the last question is about NANOG 80 in Seattle. Do we have an idea of if it's going to be considered that we'll do that in person? Is there a cutoff date? What is that looking like?
I'll start, then I'll kind of let Tina continue on if she has anything else. We are looking at it closely. We're looking at a variety of scenarios. We're exploring that, for example, let's say social distancing is most likely going to be enforced if we have a meeting in Seattle. What would that look like? What would that look like at a conference where everyone has to be 6 feet apart from each other? That we're not going to have buffet lines, and you'd have to be people served at so many people on a table. It would greatly change the experience that we're all accustomed to in going to a NANOG meeting. And so those are all the things that we're looking at. We're exploring the financial impact if we cancel. A lot goes into this. And so we don't take it lightly. We take it very seriously, and we're always thinking what's in the best interest of our community.
Yeah, much the same as what Edward just said is we're looking at our contract dates, our cancel by dates, local government. I'm based in Seattle, so I'm paying a lot of attention to the venue. It's just too early to tell. I'm very hopeful that we'll have an in-person meeting. We certainly haven't decided to cancel, but it's just too early to tell, unfortunately. I wish we knew. We're looking at every possible scenario that you could think of. And if you have suggestions, please let us know.
Yes, that's why feedback@nanog.org. We want your feedback. It helps us govern. It helps direct us. It helps us understand what our community wants.
And we do understand that even if we have an in-person meeting, it's probably going to be lightly attended. A lot of international probably won't be able to attend. It's not going to be what we hoped. I don't believe it, but who knows where we'll be by October. I hope we're more normal than today.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your time on this panel. It's been a great experience for all of us attending this the first time. I think we've all learned a lot, and I really look forward to the next panel that we have in this forum. And I guess I would like to turn it over to Vince Celindro for the closing of NANOG 79. Thanks, Vince.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Liz. And with that, I would like to formally begin closing NANOG 79 by thanking our virtual host sponsor, Aaron. I'd like to thank our Diamond, Platinum, and Gold sponsors. Thanks to our NANOG 79 exhibitors. And a special thanks to all of the NANOG members, the board of directors and program committee, our staff, Valerie, Day, Sean, Lee, Claudia, and Brandy, our contractors, Digital, and the Hamilton Group. And with that, NANOG 79 is officially done. See you all in October at NANOG 80. Thank you and hope you enjoyed the conference.